Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at another short Latin story. This one is about Atalanta. So again, these stories come, a lot of them are coming from H.J. Hardy's Latin reader for the lower forms in schools. If you've watched these videos before, you've heard me say what he meant by lower forms is probably not what I would call beginner level. I think these, if you're a teacher, they're probably best suited for probably that Latin 2, 3, somewhere in that range. Same if you're a student. I know at my classroom, I use these in my Latin, I believe Latin 3 classes, just because it does mix in things like subjunctive and some stuff that my younger students don't necessarily know. So I would take it if you're a teacher, feel free to use this as just something to supplement your curriculum. If you're a student, use it as something that can kind of help you learn, right? A different story that doesn't come from your textbook and another chance to read some Latin that you haven't seen before. Hardy does a good job of telling myths, a little bit of history, some fables, things like that. This one, the Atalanta story, is a Greek myth. So just a way to see some topics that you probably don't cover in sort of a traditional textbook. Before you dive in, though, like I always tell you, if you can do a pre-read and kind of get the vocab down, that would be your best bet. I don't think there's any commentaries necessarily from Hardy, but you could actually look up this book and he has a vocab list. So it's very difficult to read and understand what's going on if you don't know what the words mean. So that's always kind of step one for making sure that you've got this under control. The next thing I would recommend you do is go and do the read and reread method, right? So read it aloud if you can, if you have a classmate, a partner, anyone you can read it to. That way you can work on your speaking and your pronunciation. Then they can read it back to you and you can work on your listening skills. But one way or another, you want to read through it once, write down any areas that you're stuck on, any vocab you don't know or any grammar you don't recognize. When you're done with the read, look it all up. The vocab's the easy part. There's a lot of dictionaries you can use. Look up the words and then try to figure out the grammar if you can and try to see kind of what's going on. Go back after you've done that and read it a second, a third, a fourth time, as many times as you need to until you can read it without needing any help. That's the sign that you know what's going on and you can feel comfortable, right, that you understood it and that you can move on. In these videos, what I've been doing is reading through the story once, right? So I'll do that to start without any commentary. Then we'll pause the video and I'll tell you to go do that read and reread method before we come back and kind of go through it. So let's start there and I'll read the story to you now. So it goes like this. You have Skoineus, Atalantam, filiam formosissimam dicitur habuisse, quae cursu viros superaba. Haec cum a pluribus in conjugum petaretur, pater eus conditionem proposuit, ut qui eam ducere velet, prius cursu cum ea contendere. Si victus esset, occideretur. Multos cum superasset et interfecissent, tandem ab hippomene victa est. Hic enim a venere tria mala aurea acceperat. Dum curunt, horum unum post alterum proiecit, isque Atalantae cursum tardavit. Nam dum mala colligit, hippomenes ad metam pervenit. Hic igitur Skoineus filiam uxorem dedit. Quam cum in patriam duceret, oblitus veneris beneficio se vicisse, grates ei non egit. Hanc ab causam hippomenes mutatus est in leonem Atalanta in Leainam. So we're going to pause the video there. Again, if you haven't done any reads on your own, go do that. But if you keep going with the video, I'll walk you through it. And if your translation is somewhere in the ballpark of mine, you can feel pretty good that you're on the right track. Again, not that mine's perfect, but at least to give you a guide of what you should be doing here. Okay, so we started with Skoineus. So this is a Greek king, okay? So it's saying Skoineus is said to have had, dicitur habuisse, right? So he is said to have had the most beautiful daughter, Atalanta, right? So she's described as the filiam formosissimam. You have the superlative there, right? The most beautiful daughter, right? Who superabat, who surpassed viros, men, in terms of running, cursu, right? So she's really fast and she can outrun men, okay? Then you have the haec cum a pluribus. And remember, the QUUM is an older form Hardy's using. You'd probably see it in the modern textbook as cum, CUM. So don't get thrown off by that. So you're saying when she was petaretur, she was sought by many, a pluribus, in conjugium, right? In marriage, right? Think of conjux as a spouse. So she was kind of sought after in marriage. When this would happen, her father, right, pater eus, he proposed a condition, right, conditionem proposuit. So he proposed this condition, that he who velet ducere, who wants to lead her, meaning lead her in matrimonium, you might say, in marriage, first he had to contender it, must first contend with her, cum ea, cursu, in running, in a race, right? So the idea is she can beat everyone in a race. So he's like, yeah, if you want to marry her, you have to win the race first. Then you have si victus asset occideretur. So if he was defeated, right, the person, the suitor, he would be killed, right? Occideretur. So in other words, if you lose the race, you die, right? You see this in a couple different Greek myths, the idea of like if you win something, you're good, and if not, you die. That's kind of the risk you take. Then you have multos cum superasset. So when she had surpassed, right, kind of defeated many, and interfecissat, killed many, right, because a lot of people die racing her. Finally, victa est, she was defeated by Hippomenes, right? Hippomene. Okay, so this man Hippomenes beats her in a race, and we're going to see how he did it. Okay. For he, Hick, right, this one, he, Acaperat, he had received tria mala aurea, 3 golden apples from Venus, right? So he has 3 of the famous golden apples, I'm assuming from the Garden of Hesperides, would be my guess. You can look this myth up, by the way, to get more information on it, but I think that's what she gives him. So he has the 3 golden apples that are kind of irresistible. And you have dum cura, while they're running, horum unum post alterum proiecit. He threw one after another, one of these after another, horum, meaning the apples. So he throws one after another, and they slowed, and he slowed her down, right? It slowed down the cursum Atalanta, right? The race or the running of Atalanta. It slows her down because she's picking up the apples, right? They're these irresistible things. So then you have nam du mala colligit. So for while she collected the apples, right, the mala, Hippomenes ad metam pervenit, he reached the metam. It's probably meta in terms of like a chariot race means like the turning post. Here it probably means something closer to like the finish line, I would imagine, that it's like the last turn of a race. Assuming they're running in like the circle, sort of like a racetrack. But at the end, he wins, is the idea. Okay. Then you have Huic igitur. So therefore, Scoinius, he gave to him, right, Huic, to this one, meaning to Hippomenes, his daughter as a wife, right, filiam uxorum, right? He gave his daughter to him in marriage, right? So he gets to, Hippomenes marries Atalanta. Then you have when he led her, right, ducere in patrium, into his country, right, meaning back to his country. And Hippomenes is described as oblitus, right, so forgetful to have defeated her, right, we say, by the beneficio veneris, by the kindness or the blessing of Venus. So he's oblitus, he forgot that he won because Venus helped him. He grates ei non egit, he didn't give thanks to her, meaning to Venus. So he kind of was forgetful that, like, wait a minute, I didn't actually win this race. I only won because I had the golden apples. So he forgets that. Okay, this is the big sort of turning point in the story. Then you have on account of this cause, right, hanc causam, for this reason, you might say, Hippomenes mutatus est, he was changed, literally like think mutated, he was changed into a lion, leonem, right, and Atalanta, right, Atalanta in leonam, into a lioness, okay? So this is a version of the story, I believe, from Ovid, right? His Metamorphoses. He's talking about the changes that happen. This is the punishment for Atalanta and Hippomenes. Hippomenes wins, but he forgets to thank Venus, and as a punishment, eventually he ends up getting turned into a lion, and she gets turned into a lioness. Okay, so hopefully that made some sense. It's a fun story, and again, I would encourage you to go look up the myth. This is a very shortened version of it, but hopefully it was something different that you could read, that you didn't have too much trouble with it. If you have any questions at all, of course, put them in the comments below. I'm happy to help, but otherwise keep practicing, right? With these short stories, take them as an opportunity to read something different that you've never seen before, and just brush up on your Latin skills. Good luck with it.